everybody. This is the Plastic Commando coming to you from deep behind enemy lines. Today's Friday, thank God for Friday, and I'm also off work. So I'm spending some time this morning working on some miniatures with Axis and Allies World War I, as well as 1940 Global. And I thought I'd make a video this morning on decals and how to dress up your painted miniatures to not only make them more visible on the game board, but also to give some marker identification by country, and frankly just to make them look darn good. So we're going to dive into some of the decals and process that I use to get these decals on, and just to kind of talk about a few ways to dress up your miniatures and gameplay, and of course also with your fighters and bombers and aircraft using flight stands, which is a good alternative to not only get your pieces up off the game board, but to just to make your planes look really good flying and above the fray, if you will, the cluttered miniatures that'll be on your game board. So let's kind of dive into this video, and we'll start certainly with the decals. And there's several companies online that you can get some really good decals for 1/285 scale planes, as well as armor trucks, and we'll go through a few of those this morning. And I'm going to actually get my stash out. I've spent some time accumulating quite a bit of miniatures, and in doing that I wanted to also spend some time in accumulating a number of decals to help dress those up. And we'll go ahead and get the trusty little treasure chest here of decals, just to kind of trying to go through a few. I find it's helpful to go ahead and just buy a bunch of the decals at once, because when you get into after you've painted your miniatures and you get into your decals, applying those, you're probably going to need multiple types of decals, multiple sizes. And if you're doing armor and perhaps even some aircraft, you may want to put some numbers for identification purposes, squadron identification numbers, and so it's helpful to have quite a few on hand when you're applying your decals. That way you maybe don't have to put a few on, you realize you need something else, have to place another order. So I've went ahead and certainly collected quite a few decals, probably more than I need, truthfully, but nevertheless, I'll tell you, there's multiple companies online, and this is one that I bought a number off of as well, Combat Miniatures. Of course, you see here some Italian flags. They make some pretty good decals for your miniatures, and I've used this company quite a bit as well. Of course, we've got one of my favorite companies, which I've actually got the package open on that one, but just to kind of give you an idea here, this is Decal Details is the name. Of course, the company, I-94 Enterprises, they make just a tremendous amount of decals, and they're very good quality. I've got quite a few of these as well. Here we've got some French flags. This is also from I-94 Enterprises. These are World War I plane markers. If I'm not mistaken, this is the Allied collection. We've got Russia, I think that's actually Belgium in the center, and we've got Italy, which I'm in the process of applying a number of these right now on some planes. Just to maybe kind of give you an idea, I got got a few of these the other day. These are some Arab state, primarily got these for some Ottoman Turkish airplane symbols, in particular the flags and the squares and the circles, which I'll be using for a few of the planes in Axis and Allies World War I for the Ottomans. These, again, these are all from I-94. Got a few others in here. This is an example from Combat Miniatures. Numbers. You can get various colors of the numbers, and I use these not only for armor, but also plane identification squadron numbers. And these are really nice. I've got several in red and yellow and white. So I've found that you can really not just have enough of the numbers, because they can be used in a number of different size miniatures, not only for Axis and Allies, but even for other hobbies, miniatures, dioramas that you may be working on at this point. Here's an example of some of the yellow numbers and letters as well. Looks like these may be from Combat Miniatures as well. And of course, we've just got quite a few in here. I mean, I've got a number. There's some Finnish plane markers which I'll be using. I had actually purchased the Finnish War. I believe it's through Historical Board Gaming. And one of these days, I'm actually going to take the plunge in trying to get into the 1936-1945 Global War. But I've got a few miniatures which I'm working on at this time, and again, maybe one day we'll take the plunge and get into Global War. I've got a number of sets I've purchased already from Historical Board Gaming. Of course, here we've got some U.S. plane identification markers. Plan on using quite a bit of these. So just to kind of give you an overview of some of these decals. Again, I've got probably more than I need, but just to kind of give you an idea of some of the companies that I use as well. There's actually one other company that I did not actually get into, but it's probably better just to show you here online. I had been looking for some German helmet markers identification, and I did a search some time ago on the internet and found this company, Aileron Minis. They make decals in various sizes, but also the 1/285 scale. And believe it or not, I actually did find some rather good German insignia decals for the German helmets. And frankly, didn't know what I was getting involved in, because obviously, as you know, the miniatures for Axis and Allies, the infantry is rather small, and I took it upon myself to challenge myself to get some miniatures and try to apply those. And they here's the example of the German helmet decals. They actually say 1/72 scale, but they do work really well on the German infantry helmets. This company sells them for $4, and I bought a couple sets of these. There's quite a few, since they're so small. There's quite a few that come on. Come on each sheet. I don't think you'd need more than two, truthfully. But we'll kind of pan down here, and I'll show you the application of these. See if I can get him to focus in here. These are some of the German Afrika Korps infantry, which I'm working on for Global 1940, and we'll get it See if we can get this camera to pan in just a bit better and give you an idea of the helmet marker. Okay. Okay, it's not coming in as clear. There we go. Let me zoom out here. Apologize. Okay. Let's try this one more time. All right, we're back now. I've actually had to take a quick break, got a phone call. Apologize for that, but trying to zoom in on these Axis and Allies German infantry, the Afrika Korps, which I'm painting, and kind of give you an idea of the helmet insignias. And there we go. Maybe we can see that. You can make out the tricolor, the black, white, and the red. There we go. And of course, I've got the German eagle on the other side as well. That comes in ever so slightly. Kind of like this guy's expression. He's with the shading. He looks a bit depressed, I guess. Maybe it's toward the end of the African campaign, and he realizes their attempt in North Africa has been all for nothing. So. But this gives you an idea of the helmet insignias, and maybe we can kind of bring this guy in a little better. This is the stubborn one. I will say though, just not wanting to zoom in too well. I tell you, there's a small, but. I will say that these decals are my least favorite, frankly, because they are so darn small. And I'll kind of show you here. This is the package that come in. Again, these are the helmet markings, and you can see, frankly, just how small they are. You can look at the size of my thumb. So, if you're interested in a challenge, I would encourage you to get a set of these and apply some of these to your Axis and Allies German infantry. If you have high blood pressure, please take your medication first, because it's an art and patience. Trust me, cutting these out with an X-Acto knife and just getting them to frankly be able to attach them to a pair of tweezers and or your fingertip, and just to get those to stay on. They are very finicky. So this is likely the only set of helmet markers I'll purchase, no matter which country it is, but I wanted to kind of dress up a few of my German infantry. I don't know that I'll do it on all of them. In particular, some of the German infantry in Europe that I'm using for Global 40, obviously, which will have a different paint scheme. But if you've, of course, read anything in history about the German uniforms, you probably know that as the war progressed, supplies became limited, money, and a lot of these helmet symbols went away. These were very visible at the beginning of the war, early on, and the German leaders found out that the tricolor in particular, on the helmet marking, was very visible even at nighttime, and so they did away with a lot of these helmet markings. But also over time it became more of a money issue, expenditures for the uniforms themselves. So just a interesting part of history about the helmet markers. But just to kind of give you an idea of some of the companies which again I purchase. I tell you, you can get a lot of these decals through Historical Board Gaming, and I'll just briefly pan over here You can see, of course, World War I, World War II. We'll click on the World War II. And the price of the I'm not getting any cooperation this morning, looks like. Alrighty. There we go. This is the World War I German markers for planes, and I've got a set of these already. You can get them on Historical Board Gaming, $3. These are from I-94 Enterprises, and I'll kind of give you an idea here of some of the decals that I've already placed on German plane. They turned out really good. I really like these. Again, I like this company a lot, but it's maybe pan over here a bit. It's a good way to dress up your fighters, not only for World War I, Axis and Allies, but other, again, other miniatures you may be using, other games that you're playing. But I like these really well. Did a good job, I think, really making these planes stand out really good, and they look excellent on the game board. Used similar decals for the Austro-Hungarian fighters. A lot of pictures that you see for historical reference. They did also use the German cross, and kind of give you an idea, I've got some of the number as well for squadron identification, just to make them a bit different than the German fighters themselves. And of course, I don't have any don't have a German cross on the tail wing. Again, just to try to make them a little bit different than the German fighters. And then on the bottom side, if I can manipulate and flip this over, we've got the black German cross. Again, just to give it a little bit of variety. But I like these. They turned out really nice for the World War I planes. Really make the planes stand out. And over here we've got this is an Italian fighter, which I have applied the decals to as well. They turned out really nice. The circles, which is typical for the Allies in various colors, but those turned out really nice. Pleased with the results of those. And what I was going to say is you can actually get these I-94 Enterprise decals through Historical Board Gaming, and actually if you go directly to the website for I-94 decals, they sell them for $3 as well. So there's really no difference in price. You might find a bit more selection directly at I-94 Enterprises, but Historical Board Game usually keeps quite a few in stock. So I would prefer to buy through them, and of course you build up points as well that you can utilize later for future purchases with Historical Board Gaming. And then just real quick, we've got, of course, combat miniatures. They've got just a variety of decals, which I had talked about earlier. We can kind of go down here. You can see the list of World War II. We got Germany, Japan, the Russians, all the way down to some of the Axis allies here, Hungary, Romania. I have bought quite a few from Combat Miniatures. They do a really good job on their decals, and of course this is the Alleran Minis. You might want to check them out. They've got a host of other decals as well, and I've not tried any except the helmet decals. but I do plan on maybe buying a few of these in the future. And then we've got that's it. Those are 3 companies which I'm using. So just real quick, take you I'll take you through here. Excuse me, a few of the finished products. I've showed you a few of the World War I fighters I'm using. These of course are some of the World War II miniatures for Axis and Allies Global 40. This is part of the Africa Corps, which I'm in the process of working on. And of course, here we've got an 88 millimeter flak gun, and got it all painted up, shaded. And you can see here, this is one of the decals, I believe, from Combat Miniatures. Got the Africa Corps marker, swastika on the front of the blast shield, and got a transport truck here. And we can kind of show, if I can get to zoom in a little better. This has the Africa Corps palm tree symbol on the door. I'll show you this as well. Get it to zoom in. There we go. And those are really just the perfect size. They turned out nice. Those also are from Combat Miniatures. This truck in particular is the German 3-ton. It's the Opel Blitz. This is not a historical game board piece or out-of-box Axis and Allies. This actually came from GHQ. This is a metal truck, and I have to say I really like a lot of their products. They're a bit more pricey. I mean, of course, as you know, if you're not careful, you start getting into premium prices, just being able to detail your game pieces. But you know, at my age, my enjoyment, I like just spending time on hobbies and things that I regularly engage in. So you know, the price you put into some of these miniatures, you get it out threefold, just with the enjoyment of playing the game. And but this is a GHQ miniature, and for those that may not be familiar with the company, this is GHQ. They've been around for just a long time, 1967. They make a lot of not only armor, trucks. You can get a lot of ships, battleships, aircraft carriers, destroyers, you name it, from a lot of different countries that fought in World War II. This, of course, is the Opel Blitz. They come in about a pack of 5, $11.95. Again, a little more pricier than you'll find with plastic minis, say like at historical board gaming. But I will say they're extremely detailed. They paint up super nice. I don't have too many. I don't plan on getting too many of the metal miniatures, but I do like a few of these. I've got quite a few tanks as well that I'm working on. This here is a Russian mech, and it's a half track, also from GHQ. We'll get this to zoom in here a little better. Of course, I've got a decal of a Russian star on the side door, and this one turned out really nice, painted up nice. It's got a good feel, good weight, and just like that a lot. And of course, here we've got further examples. These are World War I tanks. These are from historical board gaming, shapeways.com. These are the Austro-Hungarian tanks, which I'm in the process of transitioning to. If I'm not mistaken, this is the Moto Geschütz. I may have just totally obliterated that name, but this is a pretty cool tank. And you see, I've got one of the German crosses there from I-94 Enterprises, and this is my Italian Fiat tank for World War I. You can get an idea of the the Italian flag on the side there. Uh, these are really nice tanks. If I'm not mistaken, there was only just a few, maybe one or two that was actually produced toward the end of the war. But it's a cool tank, and of course in these games we take liberty with some of the the miniatures that are used. Sometimes they didn't necessarily play a prominent role, but nevertheless it adds variety to the game board. And I think with the little Italian flag on each side, just really makes these stand out nice. And got a Russian T-34 tank. This is a historical board gaming piece. Paints up really nice. Looks great on the game board. And see if we can get this to zoom in here. I've got a Russian decal star. Got a bit of a glare there on the turret itself, and like these a lot. This is an out-of-box T-34 from Axis and Allies, and of course I've got a star on each side as well, Russian star. Just kind of get into some of the planes. This of course is a German Messerschmitt 109. This is part of my Africa Corps, which I'm currently painting up, and you can see the German crosses on the wings, and of course the back side as well. And got the of course we've got the camo pattern which I'm applying. Got the painting markings specifically for the desert campaign. We've got the yellow front end of the plane. We've got the white marker on the tail end, which signified the campaign in the desert. And the decals on here just really make these Africa Corps planes stand out. And of course here we've got a tactical bomber, Stuka, and to kind of give you an idea of the German crosses here as it looks with the paint scheme, and try to zoom in here. Oops, excuse me. On the back side, you see the tail fin. I've got a boy, it's just surely not wanting to zoom in good. Got a German swastika, which was really prevalent on a lot of the German fighters. There we go. Yeah, you get a good idea of that. That really looks good on the plane. It's, of course, historically accurate. And I'm in the process on this particular one. This one's not completed. I'll be putting a squadron number on the side as well. But just wanted to kind of give you an idea of these decals and how they stand out. Of course here we've got this is a Russian bomber. It's an out-of-box plane from the Axis and Allies games, the PE-8 heavy bomber. And to kind of give you an idea of some of the decals from I-94. You can see here I've got the Russian stars, got a squadron number marker on the tail end. There we go. Kind of give you an idea of, and you know, it just really dresses your planes up as well. It just makes them look good on the game board and more impressive. Here's an example. Of course, German V2 rocket. Got the German national symbol, swastika flag on the rocket itself. Just again gives it a little bit more visibility on the game board. Then just to finish up on a few, here we've got Russian transport, the Yak, used in World War II. These are really good for obviously airborne operations, and I've got, you can probably see, I've got a few stars on the The back end, I got a squadron number. This is a really slender plane. It's from Historical Board Gaming, and honestly, it's a little hard to get some of the decals on, just because it is so slender on the tail end. But we made it work. Of course, we've got a few of the got some stars, which is typical of the Russian. And just to kind of finish up on this Russian transport, you can see I've got a few of the stars on the underside of the wings, which really dresses up the plane itself. I found that through a lot of the historical pictures of Russian aircraft in World War II anyway, the Russians tended to put, it seems like, a lot of their identification air markers underneath the wings, and you'll notice that quite a few of the top part of the wings themselves were bare, so again, I like to try to stay as closely related to historically based markings as I can. Obviously, it's not always possible in games like this. You certainly want continuity of games, color schemes, but I certainly try to go with different color schemes and the markings themselves. So lastly, just to kind of show you here, this is of course a Russian fighter. It's the out-of-box version of the Russian fighter. I believe it's the Yak-3, and we've got show you some examples here of there we go. Got the Russian star on the back end side. We've got a squadron marker. We've got a tail marker with a star as well. And of course on the bottom side wings we've got big old Russian stars. And I went on this particular one. I went with more of a winter camouflage. Again, I've seen this in several historical photos. Again, it's a different color. Most of the color scheme of the Russian miniatures, which I'm using Axis and Allies, is more of a green. It's a green color scheme, and I've got a few that will be varied. Some people don't necessarily like that in gameplay because you've got different colors, and they're like, well, hey, why is this plane over there? What's the color represent? But again, that's really one important use of the decals themselves, is to identify the Russian marker, the country of origin. And again, I like the historical aspects of games. I mean, not every country, every color scheme was all army green, for example, German gray. Obviously, in particular, the Germans used a lot of different color schemes in their military equipment, planes and tanks. But I do try to keep as much as I can with a color scheme in a game, but also I think as a player it's really incumbent upon yourself to learn some of the history. I mean, frankly, we like playing the game, but it's also, I like to be able to share the historical part of these games, and it's a learning tool. I mean, someone can understand, obviously, this red star, for example, is Russia. I mean, they can certainly understand that's a Russian plane. If not, maybe as host of a game, you can certainly educate them and help them understand some of the historical bases of these symbols on planes. So hopefully you don't involve that. I mean, I find most people that I tend to play the games with have a good sense of history and certainly understand that this is a Russian star versus a German Iron Cross. So that typically doesn't come up. So all right, well, I've just want to take you through a few of these tanks and planes, which I'm using a lot of the decals on. And then lastly, just wanted to, for those not really aware of the flight stands and maybe where to get those at, these flight stands themselves are from Field Marshal Games, and they're really nice. They're a metal flight stand. It's got a heavy base, which is really nice. They typically don't just fall over, which is really good in gameplay. And we'll kind of kind of go back here to the computer just real quick. This is iwillnevergrowup.com, which is I guess part of Field Marshal Games. Not quite sure how the company layout is, but I know if you look up both, you'll eventually get to your flight stands. I've ordered several packs of these in the past, and the ones that I go for are the 25 millimeter metal stands. I think these are rather nice. It's the ones I like. They actually come with a I can't remember exactly how many. Maybe it's 10 in a pack. You can see here. Let's zoom on down. Of course, $11.95 Canadian dollars. This is a company from Canada. I bought from them before, so they're dependable on getting your product shipped to you. Yeah, it's comes with. I guess you can either get 5 or 10. I know in the past I've got 10 flight stands, several packs of those. And I noticed just recently, I actually placed an order just the other day for some additional flight stands. Looks like they're taking pre-order options. I actually ordered the one set plus an additional 4 sets, which would be 40 additional flight stands for the amount of $43.05. Haven't heard anything back from those. I don't know if there's going to be a particular wait time on some of the flight stands, but I'm using these quite a bit. I've got several that I'm using for Axis and Allies, World War I, and obviously I'm starting diving into the World War II use of flight stands as well. Just real quick on the they do come with very, very small magnets. And of course, you'll need to have a equivalent size drill bit to go ahead and drill a hole in. You can kind of get an idea of the little magnet there that I've placed in the center. There you go. And just a little bit of super glue added to that, just a drop, and drop that magnet in. Let it dry for a period of time, and you can see the magnet on the underside of this plane. Lots of the ones that I've actually started doing. This is one that I did after I'd painted up the plane. Most of the ones that I'm working on right now, when I do paint them, it paints over the magnet so it's less visible. Doesn't change the magnet, magnetizing of it at all, but that'll give you an idea. I will tell you that I'm not going to go through, obviously, showing the installation of these magnets. We may dive into that at some point in the future, but I would recommend General Hand Grenades YouTube site. He actually goes into, from my memory, quite a few of the flight stands, how to actually drill the holes in, apply the glue, and so forth. He does a really good job. He's got some great videos, so I would certainly recommend you check out General Hand Grenades video for use of flight stands. And actually, I think he actually has some alternate flight stands that he's using as well in games, gameplay as well. And the cool thing about these magnets, though, you'll see with the flight stand, all you do is just sort of get it on there, whoops, and it'll stick rather quickly. And I'm struggling here because I'm holding my phone in one hand here as we speak. So there we go. You'll see it just clicks on, and they're really sturdy. I mean, they hold really well. They're great magnets. One last thing I'll say, though, is with iwillnevergrowup.com, when I had placed an original order some time ago, a few months back, they were actually out of the magnets, which obviously if you're going to use flight stands, you need magnets. And it was going to be some time before they told me they were going to get those in. But I'll tell you, just in the event you order flight stands from this company and they don't have magnets, what I did is I went to Amazon, and you'll see a big old stack of magnets. It looks like a large amount. They're super tiny, but I actually found the equivalent size magnets. Just so you know, it's the 2 by 1 millimeter, so extremely small, a little fidgety to work with, but super price, $5.49 American dollars. For 250 little magnets. And I'll be honest, I think that's all I'll ever need. I mean, I'm going to magnetize quite a number of planes in all countries, in Axis Now's Global 40 as well as 1914 World War One. But this big old stack of magnets here is really all that you're going to need. So in the event if Field Marshal Games does not have the magnets, don't worry, you can go right to Amazon, but you'll want to get the equivalent size that'll match up with your flight stand itself, and that's the 2 by 1 millimeter little magnet, and of course that's what we've got in all these planes, and you can see with the tip of the flight stand touching the magnet itself. It's just a perfect size for that. So. All right, guys, just wanted to make a video. It actually went a little longer than I'd planned on. It's one of the problems, I guess, when you're off work. You get into your hobbies, you get passionate about it, and you just want to talk the morning away. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully it's been a little helpful on demonstrating the effective use of these decals, just really dressing up your planes and armor and just adding an enhancement to the game itself and enjoyment that just really makes it all worthwhile, you know, in painting up everything and getting it to gameplay, and just something that looks really good on the game board itself. So hope you guys have a good day, nice weekend. We've got beautiful weather here today. Hope it's beautiful where you guys are, and this is the Plastic Commando, over and out.